Welcome to We're on ECMO, an educational series for the ECMO community. My guest today is Kat Hedden. She's a pediatric physical therapist at Monroe Carell Jr. Vanderbilt Children's Hospital, where, as I've mentioned before here on We're on ECMO, that they are an ELSO award-winning center of excellence. Kat, thanks for joining me today. I just want to go ahead and jump right into it. Here at ECMO Advantage, early mobility is something that we teach and preach a lot. And you've been so kind to help us and Erica as well. And so thank you for being here today. But I'm just going to kind of jump into it with a few questions, particularly about the neonatal and pediatric population. And so first, can you tell us a little bit about what early mobility looks like in the neonatal and pediatric population?
Absolutely. At our facility, we have specialized therapists that work specifically in the NICU. And based on each patient's age and their medical stability, early mobility can take many forms, starting with even something as basic as the environment that a patient is living in. In our pediatric ICU where I work, we also control environments and start there, but then have a stepwise program to intervene at whatever level each patient's appropriate for. So our initial early mobility therapy sessions start with a lot of caregiver education and positioning of a patient. So making sure that while we are critically ill, we're at least maintaining appropriate body positioning to set us up for success in the future. And then this can evolve into more activity as patients meet our criteria and show us that they're ready. Things like being held by our parents or sitting up in a chair, or even going as far as starting to stand and take steps or engage in daily activities.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you kind of were leading into about my next question is kind of what is this impact of early mobility, not just for the neonatal pediatric patient, but like for their family and their friends that visit the patient?
Absolutely. And that's huge. Our team has focused a lot on the ABCDEF bundle with a huge emphasis on the family engagement piece of the puzzle. A lot of times caregivers are in a position where they feel like they have no control, and us being able to come in and give them power over something, even if it is, these are our splints that we need to wear on our hands and feet. They need to be on every couple hours. Something as simple as that, or teaching a parent how to do some gentle range of motion or massage can be really impactful and just give them some sense of control in an environment that has not a lot of control.
Sure.
We've even done some studies and some surveys with families that have shown a massive appreciation for the education and the skills that we bring, as well as as patients are able to participate maybe in more active therapy, being able to give them a voice back and being able to communicate with our family, even with a breathing tube or on ECMO, that helps restore some sense of autonomy and, again, control for the patient themselves. And helps them be able to communicate even basic wants, needs, or feelings about the hospitalization that maybe make it a little bit less scary for the patient and family.
Absolutely. So say there's a center that hasn't adopted early mobility for their neonatal pediatric ECMO patients. How would they get started? How could they get started in this process in a safe manner? What would you suggest?
Excellent. Well, there are several studies out there that I would gather to take to administration that show that mobility and therapy presence in patients on ECMO is safe and feasible. There are several studies that exist. If you want them, reach out. We will totally direct those your way. But also identifying a physician champion. That's been something that was very, very helpful at our facility. That before we even established our protocol for early mobility and mobilizing patients on ECMO, we had every member of a multidisciplinary team present at a table with a physician champion to voice their goals as well as concerns, and be able to have an open dialogue with all players, because early mobility is not just a therapy thing. It is a nursing thing. It's respiratory therapy, it's physician, it's medication. So you have to have every member of the team on board for the same goals for you to be successful, even getting a foot in the door.
That's awesome. I think maybe after this conversation, I'll have you email me those later,
Absolutely.
and so people watching, you can look in the comments or in the post, around the post. I'll try to put those studies along with that. But absolutely, physician champions, and team, everybody being on the same page is a big deal. And I know some of the trainings and things that you guys offer and we've offered have helped a lot of programs with that. Can you tell us how early mobility in a critically ill neonatal pediatric patient helps patients not just survive, but thrive, like after ECMO?
Oh, this is my favorite question ever. Because that's one of the cool things I think we're seeing in hospitals across the country, is that our acuity of patient that we're seeing even in a hospital setting has gone up because of all the advances in medical care and equipment availability and using resources like ECMO to keep our patients alive. But with that come a lot of secondary impairments that come from being critically ill for a period of time, or other complications from being immobilized. So a lot of those secondary impairments are really time sensitive,
Mm-hmm.
but can be prevented if you're proactive to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
So I think being able to start the rehab process earlier can help prevent a lot of the things that we can prevent. So I always say, like, we're controlling what we can control.
Mm-hmm.
But we can prevent a lot of things, but also we can start that step towards recovery a lot faster and more proactive. With pediatric patients, a lot of the therapy resources that our adult counterparts may have access to after a hospitalization are actually harder to find.
Mm-hmm.
There are fewer pediatric outpatient clinics.
Right.
There's fewer home health therapy resources, and
Mm-hmm.
there's even fewer pediatric inpatient rehabs that patients can go to.
Mm-hmm.
So often what we find is that if we can start that recovery process, it actually helps relieve the burden for patients and families, and may shorten the time that we may spend in an outpatient clinic, or may shorten the time we stay at an inpatient rehab. So a lot of this is research that I'm excited for the future, as we're able to kind of track patients' outcomes and their functional improvements with earlier therapy. But it's something that I think just getting the starting from as early as we possibly can, and engaging family and empowering families to then be more equipped for a successful return home, and even return to normalcy and normal life,
Mm-hmm.
school, basketball, whatever it is that our goals and our
Right.
making life worth living, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's so amazing, and I really appreciate you taking the time. You guys, what you're doing is superhero work. All the healthcare workers, especially that work with our little ones, I just really appreciate you and all that you do. ECMO Advantage, like I said, are big proponents of collaborative care and early mobility, and our courses that we have for PT and OT. And even the way that we can incorporate it into our regular ECMO specialist trainings. We know just how important it is for all range of patients, kids and adults alike. And I really think that if more people can get on board and grasp these concepts and read the research and see how it's working, that it's going to lead to better patient care and better patient outcomes, and that not just surviving but thriving, and we really want to see that. We think people deserve that, and we appreciate folks like you that are help making that happen. If you're watching this episode and you have a question that you would like to hear answered by an expert, make sure that you reach out to me. Neil, Neil at ECMOadvantage.com. And we'll try to answer that on another episode of We're on ECMO. I appreciate you again, Kat, for being here, and we'll see everybody next time.